This is huge for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to be talking about three critical points that the Chicago Bulls are going to need to correct as this NBA season goes along. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today we are going to be talking about three critical points that the Chicago Bulls are going to have to fix as they continue on this season. And I think that these points are going to have to be fixed also for the long-term build for this team. And so let's go ahead and jump into point number one. And I love what this article talks about when it's talking about the struggles and the turnovers. And so the turnovers is absolutely something that the Chicago Bulls are going to have to fix here, because this is a young team trying to figure out a way to win games, and you have to develop winning habits. And one of those winning habits is making sure that you are not beating yourself. And that's exactly what it comes down to with these turnovers. Yes, I get it. We lost to the Pelicans. I understand we lost in our home opener to OKC 114-95 last night. I get it that OKC is going to be a team that is going to go deep in the West. Maybe they might make it to the NBA Finals. Who knows? But no matter who the opponent is and what they do, you cannot go out and beat yourself. So this is something that absolutely has to get corrected. And I like what Billy Donovan talks about in his quote after the game, because a lot of people were looking at the field goal percentage and looking at the amount of three-point shots and looking at that as the main issue. But I think that Billy Donovan makes a great point by saying that, look, the main issue to start with is the turnovers. And when you look also deeper into the quote, he talks about the fact that the starters had 18 of the 26 turnovers. And when I looked in the box score, you see that Zach Lavine had 7 of those turnovers and Josh Giddey had 4 turnovers. I said 3 last night, but I meant to say 4. So he had 4 turnovers. And I'm not saying that it was just their fault out there. Collectively, the turnovers are a team stat, and it is a team game out there as well. But this is something that we have got to correct, and especially with the starters out there, because they are the ones that are essentially paving the way for this team, right? You're starting off the game, and you want to make sure that you start it off properly. You want to make sure that you take care of the basketball. And when I look at some of these turnovers, I mean, they were really inexcusable. I mean, there were some bad inbounds passes out there. There was one time where Zach Lavine threw it at the feet of Vooch, and it's like, man, you never want to throw it at the feet of your big man for him to have to go dig down and grab it like that. And then just some of the passes and the miscommunications out there, you could just tell that this Chicago Bulls team is really trying to figure one another out on the court at this point in time and this playing style. So I think that this is absolutely something that you're going to have to correct. And I think it starts with just being okay with the fact that if you don't have a fast break opportunity, and when you first take it out of the basket or alpha make, and you're taking it out of your basket and going down to their basket, just slow down a little bit. Just slow down and then run your offense. Yes, you're going to operate quickly in your offense. You're trying to get a lot of slip screens. You're trying to get a lot of player movement. You're trying to create an opening. And more importantly, just go into the post. Like, you don't have to settle for just three-point shots. And so I think that that's something that the Chicago Bulls are going to get better with. I think it is going to take some time, but this is absolutely, I think, point number one and critical, I think, for the Chicago Bulls to correct. Next up, the next key point for the Chicago Bulls to correct out there is going to be just the shot selection, all right? Because I love what Billy Donovan is talking about in this particular quote after the game, where he's talking about making the defense really work. You have to make the defense go side to side, and you have to understand a little bit more with the pace sometimes. So I know you want to play quickly out there, but there is still a way where you can go ahead and you can wear that team down by playing controlled and playing fast that way. And I think a lot of times what you're seeing with these shots that the Chicago Bulls are taking is they're just playing a little bit too fast, right? Because, you know, going back a little bit more to those turnovers, say, for example, with Zach Lavine, you know, he's running down and it's like a 1-on-3 opportunity. and he's going up for a layup and it ends up, he throws it out of bounds looking for a call. And this is something where it's like, you can slow down, wait for some teammates to get here. Let's run some more actions in the half court set and see if we can get a better shot than that. Or there were times where we would just simply take one pass and then shoot up the 3-point shot. And you don't necessarily have to do that. And one possession, there were like all 5 just on the perimeters, just kind of swinging it back and forth, looking for a 3-point shot instead of going ahead, setting a screen, trying to get some backdoor cuts and things like that. I think that that is something that the Chicago Bulls are absolutely going to have to work on. And it's going to be challenging because right now that you're in the season, there's not a whole bunch of practice time. This is going to be more looking at the films and then going out there and then trying to correct this on the fly. So this is where you're going to see some ups and downs of the season, but that's what I would say. You have to make sure that you slow down and try to get the best available shot versus just taking any shot. And so that is another point that the Chicago Bulls are absolutely going to have to fix. And so when we go into the box score, just looking at a couple of things that I saw to note, to me, was going back to what Billy Donovan just said about just challenging the defense. Lou Dort didn't have any fouls. You had Alex Caruso who had 3 fouls. So I think we have to do a little bit better job as far as attacking players and not letting the opposing team really dictate our playing style. We have to still bring that type of physicality. I know we don't have necessarily the size to go out there and bang with some of these teams, but we do need to try to drive. We do need to try to draw those fouls. We do need to try to continue to move the ball side to side and things like that and really make this defense work a little bit more, because I think that there were a lot of times where we literally just settled, and I think that we absolutely maybe could have had a chance to maybe get some of these players into some foul trouble had we perhaps maybe drove the ball a little bit more down the lane. So with that being said, on the other side of the box score, just looking at some of our younger players, I think that to me, I think that Dalen Terry, I think that Julian Phillips, I think that Buzelis, they continue to show some good signs, especially with Julian Phillips. I think that, we're starting to see that he has a pretty good 3-point shot. He's definitely worked on it. And I love the scrappiness that we're getting from Dalen Terry going back to what we saw against the Milwaukee Bucks. And then also, too, with Buzelis, I like the fact that he doesn't look lost out there. One of the things that Stacey King said during the broadcast was that the hardest thing for him as a rookie was trying to figure out where to go defensively with these rotations and things like that. And I think that, he doesn't seem to be lost out there on the defensive end. Yes, I know he can get a lot better, but when you go back and look at the tape, there's a lot of times where he's getting some deflections. He's had some assists and things like that. So he's still making some winning plays, and I think that that's only going to get better as he gets out of his rookie year. And so that leads me to the last point, and I think a critical piece for the Chicago Bulls as they continue to go along this season. We talk about the evaluation of these players, and we're talking about the patience and just really building this team out. I want to go back to what I said here about Patrick Williams. I said last night that Patrick Williams absolutely showed some physicality out there. I think that he absolutely showed some physicality against the Milwaukee Bucks. But I love what Elias Schuster had to say in his piece on Bleacher Nation, where he's talking about the fact that, yes, even though he has shown us some physicality, he went out there, he got some rebounds. At some point, he's going to have to try to figure it out from an offensive standpoint. And I totally agree with that fact. I mean, it's not going to be something where he's just going to put up a lot of points. In fact, I don't think it's all going to be about points for me personally. I think it's a great first step to see him just be consistent with the physicality, going out there, getting some rebounds, and being consistent as a defender, because going into the season, that's one of the things that I think a lot of people were depending on from Patrick Williams, and that is to be a very good defender. Between him and Ayo, they might have been looked at as the 2 best defenders on the club, and so we need to see that for sure consistently. And I do think that there have been opportunities for him to definitely go out there and be aggressive on the offensive end. And I know that CHGO podcast has really deemed this season as a no excuse tour for Patrick Williams. I totally agree with that. Over here on Bulls Digest, I think that this is the year of Inception for Patrick Williams. And if you've ever seen that movie, Inception, I think that this is it for Patrick Williams, and it comes down to the fact that, he's going to have to wake up this year. He's really going to have to wake up and understand that the Chicago Bulls have invested this 5 years, $90 million into him because they really believe that he is going to be a main piece for this team as they continue to, build it out and hopefully get back to being a contender. And so he's really got to find himself because right now, we see flashes, and I think, he just looks like a player that was a sleeper pick that is still sleeping. And at some point he has got to fully wake up if the Chicago Bulls are going to realize this vision of having a faster team that is more efficient, that somehow becomes a better defensive team with the personnel that they're bringing in. And so with that being said, let me know in the comments, what is your biggest takeaway from these first couple games? Has it been the glaring turnovers and the losses that we've had? Has it been the volume of three-point shots that we have taken? Or is it the fact that, yes, we still have some questions around some players that we're depending on for the long term? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And so before we go ahead and jump out of here, I just want to thank everybody for liking and subscribing to the videos. It means a lot to us here as we try to reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers during the season. And I just want to say that, out of the subscribers here, about 64.2% of you that watch are not subscribed. So make sure that you go ahead and slam dunk on that subscribe button for me. And so even though, look, we had some challenging moments thus far in the first 3 games of the season, and we clearly have to get better in these aspects that I mentioned, I'm still saying go Bulls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.